$651. And now we have the taxes that need to be taken out. So that's 9%. So I'm going to multiply this by 0.09, which is simply just 9. And that gives us 58.59 in taxes. But my friends, we're going to take this 651, 651, subtract those taxes, and we get $592.41. So that's how much the entrepreneurs made all together. I'm not sure why we're not including supplies, but that's okay. So now we're going to divide this number, divide by the 3 entrepreneurs, and each one is going to get $197.47. Pretty good day for selling snow cones, right? Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Before we go further in the video, I want to give you a couple pieces of advice. First, click the link down below for all of the math problems. And I want you to actually go through these math problems with me. Maybe try a problem and then watch me do it, okay? That is going to be the most effective way to do it. Second, make sure that you watch the entire video because you are committed to getting your GED or HiSET, so you're going to want to watch all of them and practice all the math problems. I actually have several more videos just like this. You want to watch those videos too so that you're really prepared for that math test. Next, you might actually want to watch this video a couple of times until you can start doing the problems without me. So again, that's why you want to make sure you download those slides. The calculator is your friend, okay? So make sure that you really know the functions of the calculator so that you can do well on the test and save yourself a little bit of time. And finally, click that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's free, and the notification bell so that you're notified every time I post new videos so that you can get your GED or HiSET just a little bit faster. On with the video. Welcome to Purely Persistent. I'm Michelle.
So on screen is your next question, and if you'd like to, you can pause the video and give this a shot, and then when you're ready, unpause the video and we'll go over how to do it. Okay, so in this question, what we have to do is solve the equation for x. And that's just a fancy math way of saying we need to get x by itself alone on one side of our equation. So the first move that I want to make here is I'm going to take this -2 and I'm going to distribute it. And you might be wondering, what does that mean? Distribute -2? Well, let me show you. We do -2 times -4, which is +8. And then we do -2 times -6x, because I have to take this sign into consideration, which that's going to be +12x. And so let me rewrite this. So there's different ways to approach the next step here. What I want to do is I'm going to deal with this -10 here. And to get this 3x alone on the right-hand side and clear out this -10, I have to add 10, because addition is the opposite of subtraction. So if I add 10 on this side, it leaves me with just 3x. But we can't forget to add 10 to the other side, because whatever I do to one side in math, I always have to do it to the other. And another thing I want to point out here is note that I'm adding the 10 to the 8. I can't add 10 to 12x. So we get 18 plus 12x is equal to 3x. So the next move I want to make here is I want to subtract both sides of the equation by 12x. Now, why would I do that? Well, because we have 18 plus 12x, and subtracting 12x is going to cancel that out from the left-hand side. I also, of course, have to subtract 12x on the right-hand side. So if I rewrite this, and I'm going to do it up here where I have more space, I'm going to have 18 equals -9x. Now this -9x is really -9 times x. So if I just want to get x, what am I going to do? Well, I have to do the opposite operation of multiplication, since it's -9 times x. The opposite of multiplication is division. I want to divide by -9. And the -9's are going to cancel out, leaving me with x. But we're not done yet because we have to also divide by -9 on the left-hand side. So what is 18 divided by -9? 18 divided by -9 is -2, which is equal to x. And -2 is the right answer.
Comment down below if you recognize Parker from Test Prep Champions. He will actually be sprinkled throughout this video, so you'll be seeing him a couple of more times. Macario went shopping at the mall. He bought shirts for $12.75 each. Later, he spent $35 on a pair of jeans and $10 on lunch. If he spent $134.25, how many shirts did he purchase? So what I'm going to do is just create an equation for this. So if he spent $134.25, and what did he buy? Well, he bought shirts, $12.75 per shirt, but I don't know how many shirts he has. So I'm just going to put here X to represent the number of shirts, plus the $35 on the jeans, plus the $10 on lunch. Now, what I'm going to do is solve for X. So the first thing I need to do is combine like terms. So I kind of like to draw a little line here where the equal sign is. So I remember if I move anything over, I have to do the same on one side as I do the other. So there's nothing to do over here, so I'm going to bring down the 134.25 equals. I can add my 35 and 10 together, but I can't do anything with this 1275x. So I'm going to add these together. Now I want to get the x all alone. So I'm going to actually subtract the $45 from each side. So subtract 45. Again, what I do on one side, I have to do to the other. And I get here 89.25 equals 1275x. Okay, so this is a little silly, but I like to think about my pencil as a microphone, and I sing the song from the 80s. How do I get you alone? So how do I get my x all alone? The way I get my x alone here is I need to divide by 1275. So I'm going to divide by 1275 on both sides. And I am left with 7. So 89.25 divided by 12.75 is just equal to 7. So that's my answer, 7 shirts. Tanisha sold $47.45 in candy for a fundraiser. Lollipops sold for 50 cents each, chocolates for $2.25, and hard candy for $1.85. If she sold 9 chocolates and 10 lollipops, how many bags of hard candy did she sell? So just like our last problem, I need to turn this into an equation. So I'm going to say 47.45, because that's how much she sold total, equals, all right, now I've got the lollipops. So I have 0.50 times, you can see here she sold 10 lollipops. So I'm going to multiply that by 10, plus the chocolate was $2.25, and she sold 9 chocolates, plus lollipops. No, hard candy, $1.85 for hard candy, but I don't know how many she sold, and so I'm just going to put that as X, but really I could put in any letter I want. I could put like an H for hard candy, a C for candy, whatever. Now I'm just going to solve this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I like to draw my line again down here. So I have 47.45. And I'm going to go 50 cents times 10 is just $5, plus 2.25 times 9 is 20.25, plus that 185x. Now I'll combine my like terms, keep this 47.45 over here equals 25.25 plus 185x. So now subtract the 25 from both sides. And I have 22.20 equals 185x. So now I divide both sides by 185. And our answer ends up being 12. So Tanisha sold 12 hard candies. Number 5. Kenny sold $1,240 worth of tickets for a basketball game. He sold 10 more adult tickets than children tickets and 4 times as many senior tickets than children's tickets. If children tickets are $4, senior tickets are $6, and adult tickets are $10, how many children's tickets did he sell? So this problem here is actually a little bit more complicated than the other ones, but bear with me and we're going to work through it, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to indicate the amount of tickets, okay? So it says here that the children's tickets are $4, the senior tickets are $6, and the adult tickets are $10, okay? So we're just starting off with what we know. All right, so we also know that we're looking for the children's tickets, right? So I'm going to say number of children tickets. And then you can see here it said sold 10 more adult tickets than children's tickets. So we're going to go over here by adult tickets. And we're going to say the adult tickets is 10 plus the number of children tickets, okay? So that NC is simply just a notation. A notation is our friend. Use it if it helps, and it really is just going to help us stay a little bit more organized, okay? And then senior tickets, it said sold 4 times as many senior tickets than children's tickets. So 4 times is just going to be 4 NC. So the number of children tickets, okay? So the NC, number of children's tickets. All right, now let's create an equation. So we're going to say the 1,240 tickets equals children's tickets times the number of children's tickets plus the senior ticket times the 4NC, because that's how many senior tickets there are, plus, I'm going to put this just in parentheses here so we keep it in order here, plus adult tickets times 10 plus NC. Okay. All right, now let's replace the C, the S, and the A with the number that we have up here. Okay, so I'm going to say 1,240 equals C, and our C equals 4, right? So 4 times the number of children's tickets plus senior equals 6 times 4 the number of children's tickets plus the adult is 10 times 10 plus the number of children's tickets. And now we're going to use algebra and just solve for that NC, okay? So 1,240 equals 4 times NC is just going to be 4 NC. Now we could use NC as anything. So again, NC is the number of children, LDREN tickets, right? Okay, so 4NC plus 6 times 4NC is 24 NC plus 10 times 10 is 100 plus 10 NC. And now we're just going to combine our like terms. I'm sort of running out of room here. Okay, so 1,240 equals 4NC plus 24NC is 28NC plus 10NC is going to be 38NC plus 100. Then I'm going to subtract 100 from both sides, and I am left with, I'm going to switch colors and just write it. How about right up here at the top? Okay, so I'm at 1,140 equals 38, the number of children's tickets. Now, we just divide by 38. And our answer is the number of children's tickets. The number of children's tickets equals 30. There we go. So definitely took up a bit of room and a little bit more thought, a little more brain power had to go into that, but just practice it a few times and you'll do great. Honestly, you can even make up your own questions and you're gonna rock it. Just be persistent and believe in yourself. Christy's cell phone company charges a monthly rate of $45 plus 5 cents per text message sent and 58 cents per video message sent. I don't know, it must be like an old cell phone plan, right? They don't have those unlimited features. So Christy sent 8 video messages in October and received a bill for $55.29. How many text messages did she send? Okay, so the cost is $55.29, and that equals the $45, right? Plus, it says here, the text message, so that's 0.05. I'm just going to call that a T. Again, it doesn't matter the letter. The text messages plus 0.58 times the video message, and she sent 8 video messages. So now all we have to do is solve for T. So now let's multiply this 0.58 by 8 to see how much she spent in sending those video messages. So it's $4.64. I hope those were good videos that Christy sent. And I'm just going to rewrite the equation because that helps keep me organized. Even though it takes just a second longer, this staying organized really helps. Okay, so I'm going to combine like terms. So 45 plus $4.64 is $49.64 plus 0.05 T equals the 55.29. Subtract the 49 from both sides. $5.65 equals 0.05 T. Now I'm going to divide by the decimal. And when you divide by a decimal, it actually is going to turn it into a much larger whole number. So our T, the number of text messages Christy sent was 113 text messages. Let me ask you, do you send that few text messages in a 31-day month? I'm thinking I send more. Heather has $120 in her savings account, and Jeremy has $180 in his account. Each week, Heather adds $14 to her account, and Jeremy adds $10 to his. How many weeks will it be before Heather and Jeremy have the same amount of money saved up? All right, so we're going to put Heather over here and Jeremy over here. Okay, so Heather is starting with $120 and Jeremy is starting with $180. So I know that it's going to be more than one because if you look at the difference, Jeremy is $60 ahead of Heather. So you could go week by week, but I'm going to just do it a bunch of weeks at once. So I'm going to say 10 weeks, okay? So 10 weeks. So if Heather's doing 14 a month and Jeremy's doing 10 a week, 14 times 10 is 140, right? So that puts Heather at 260. And 10 times 10 is 100. So that puts Jeremy at 280. Okay, I'm still $20 off. Heather's 260, Jeremy's 280, so $20 difference between the two. I'm going to try 5 more weeks, okay? 5 more weeks. So if I do 5 weeks, that has Heather at 70, because 70 is 5 times 14, and that puts Jeremy at 50. And that gives Heather 330 and Jeremy 330. And there we go. That's the same. So what you can do is, again, you can add it up week by week if you want, or if I was a little too high, I could do like 4 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. So I just add here 10 plus 15. Sorry, 10 plus 5 is 15 weeks is how long it's going to take for them to be at the same level. Bianca, an ice cream parlor owner, was tracking the number of chocolate cones she sold over a week. Her results were these numbers. Determine the mean, median, and mode and range of the cones sold. Okay, so I'm going to line these up in order. That's the first thing you want to do when you have a series of numbers. So I'm going to start with the smallest. So it looks like I have two 62s. And you can even put like little check marks up here if you want to. 62, then I've got 74. Looks like three 75s, and then an 81. So these are all in order, largest or smallest, all the way up to largest. So the mean is simply the average. Okay, so what I'm going to do is add up all the numbers together. And when I add them all up, I get 504. And I count up how many numbers there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. So I'm going to divide the 504 by 7. And I get my mean, which is 72. Okay, the median is really just going to be the number that is in the middle. Okay, so if I have 7 numbers, I'm going to count whatever number would be the fourth number. So I have 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and then that middle one. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So this 75 right there, that is our median. Mode is simply the number that repeats itself the most. So 62 I've got twice, but 75 I have 3 times. So 75 is also going to be the mode. Now to get the range, I'm going to go the biggest number. Again, it's really handy I have these in order. The biggest number, which is the 81, minus the smallest number, which is 62. And I get 19 for my range. A nurse charges $60 per home visit, plus an additional $12.50 per hour. He arrives at a patient's home at 10:30 a.m. The final bill for the visit is $97.50. What time did the nurse leave the patient's home? So I'm going to start off with how much I owe, or how much the patient owes, subtract the 60, and then figure out how many hours I have to solve this problem. Okay, so we have $97.50 minus 60 is $37.50. Okay, now let's figure out how many. If I just divide that by 12 and a half, so divide by 12 and a half, I am going to get 3 hours. But it doesn't want to know 3 hours. It says, what time did the nurse leave the patient's home? So I'm going to say 10:30, 3 hours. I don't know, I sometimes do it better on my fingers. So 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, right? The nurse left at 1:30 p.m. Austin has $10 to spend on a taxi. The taxi charge is 50 cents for each mile traveled plus $2.40 per trip. If Austin spends all but 10 cents of his money on a taxi, how many miles did he travel? Okay, so I'm going to start with the $10 because that's how much he has. And then I need to create an equation. So I want to know how many miles. So I have 0.5 miles. I'm going to put an M for miles plus the $2.40 for the tip. Plus, it says that he has 10 cents left. So I'm going to put that 10 cents there because that adds up to be that $10, okay? Now I combine all my like terms on the right side. So I'll add up all the terms on the right side. And I have 0.5 miles plus 250. Subtract the 250 on both sides because remember you have your little microphone. How do I get you alone? Miles. Okay, so subtract 250 from both sides. And I am left with 750 equals 0.5 miles. And now I just divide by the 0.5. And remember, when you're dividing by decimals, it's actually going to increase it, just like it did on one of our last problems. And we get here 15 miles. I don't know where they are, but that seems pretty cheap for going 15 miles. I don't know, we've kind of got prices raised up a little bit. Ariana's father throws Ariana a birthday party for $350. The expenses are $150 for the DJ, $50 for the cake, $3 per person for food. How many people attended the party, including Ariana and her father? Okay, so he's got the budget of $350. So $350, and he has the DJ expense, right? That's $150, plus the cake expense, plus, so it's $3 per person. So I'm going to say P again. You can do whatever letter you want. And now I'm just going to solve for that P. So I have 350 equals 200 plus 3P. Subtract the 200 from both sides. And I'm left with 150 equals 3P. How do we get the P alone? We divide by it, right? So I am left with 50 equals P. So there are 50 people that can attend Ariana's party. Happy birthday, Ariana! A homeowner rented a carpet cleaner at 8 a.m. and returned it at 3 p.m., paid a total of $19.25. What was the rental cost per hour? Okay, so let's figure out how many. So we have 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So how many hours is that? So 8 to noon is 4 hours, and noon to 3 is 3 hours, so 4 plus 3 is 7 hours, right? And now I'm going to take my total, $19.25, and divide that by the 7 hours, and I get $2.75 per hour. It's been a while since I've rented a carpet cleaner, but I feel like that's pretty cheap. Ellie is a diesel mechanic. Woohoo, Ellie! And she recently tuned up a pickup truck and changed the tires. The cost of each tire was $200, and the total bill was $1,375. What was the cost of the tune-up? Okay, so again, I have my $1,375 equals the cost of each tire. So 200. Now, how many tires are there? 4, right? So I'm going to multiply that by 4, plus I'm going to say T for the tune-up. So let's combine our like terms. So we have 1375 equals 800 plus T. So we're going to solve for T by subtracting the 800 from both sides. And I get 575 is how much the tune-up is. Way to go, Ellie, for being a diesel mechanic, stepping outside of what is traditionally a male-dominated career. I am so proud of you, Ellie. What is the value of 32x minus 6y squared when x equals 4 and y equals negative 6? So in this problem, we're going to be dealing with the order of operations and also negative numbers. So we're just going to add, or I guess insert the x, so that is a 4, minus 6, insert our y, which is negative 6 squared. Okay, so following the order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We're going to start with parentheses. There's nothing that we can do inside the parentheses, though. Exponents. So here we have negative 6 times negative 6. So when we have two negatives and we multiply them together, it equals a positive. So I have 36 here, a positive 36. And I'll just rewrite the rest of this to make it so that I don't forget. Okay, 32 times 4 is 128, minus 6 times 36 is 216. So 128 minus 216, again, we've got that negative number here, is negative 88. Now, if you'd like me to do a video on positive, negative numbers, put a comment down below. And I think it's definitely something that could be helpful for a lot of people. Cal went to the store and purchased 3 pairs of shoes for $18.20. They also bought 12 pairs of socks. They spent a total of $81.60. How much did they pay for each pair of socks? Okay, so we're just going to create another equation. So we're going to start with the $81.60 that they spent. And they bought 3 pairs of shoes. So notice here that 3 for $18.20 each. So we're going to go 3 times $18.20 plus 12 pairs of socks. So we'll go 12, and let's put a little S there for socks. Now we just solve for it. So we have our $81.60 equals 3 times $18.20 is $54.60 plus 12S. Okay, so subtract the 54 from both sides, and we get 27 equals 12S. Divide both sides by 12. And so each pair of socks is $2.25. So here we're just solving for X. So I'm going to start with the distributive property. So I'm going to go 3 times X is 3X plus 3 times 5 is 15 equals X plus 21. And again, our song, how do I get you alone? X. Okay, so I'm going to subtract the X from both sides, just this little X right here. And I have 2X plus 15 equals 21. Now subtract the 15 from both sides, and I get 2X equals 6. To get the X alone, we're going to divide by 2, and I get X equals 3 for my answer.
Parker drove to Michelle's house for a dinner party. He was away from his house for 3 hours. He spent 110 minutes at Michelle's house. Driving to and from Michelle's house, he drove at a speed of 45 miles per hour. How far does Parker live from Michelle? So if you'd like to, this would be a good time to have you pause the video, try the question out, and if you get stuck, don't worry, we're just going to go over how to do it. So let's say that the house on the left is my house. And by the way, my name's Parker. If you recognize me from Test Prep Champions, you might already know how bad my art skills are, but hopefully my bad drawing here is going to help make this more memorable. So you'll remember how to ace this question if you get something like it on the test, and you'll be able to hopefully get a better score and pass faster, move ahead to bigger and better things like college or a better job, whatever your goal happens to be, because that's what we're really here to help you do. And let's say that I leave from my house, I hop in the car, and I drive to Michelle's house, and we have a party for 110 minutes. Now, hopefully we're going to have pizza there. My favorite's Hawaiian. Hopefully we're going to have some cookies. I'm sure we're going to have some cookies if it's Michelle's house. And once we're all partied out and we're all partied out, we can't take any more cookies, I'm going to head back from Michelle's house back to my house. And what we really need to figure out here is what is the distance between my house and Michelle's house. And there's a couple different ways to look at this. One way is to think about the distance formula. Distance equals rate times time. But we're not quite ready to use this formula just yet, because what I see here, we've got hours, we've got 45 miles per hour, and 110 minutes. So my first step that I want to do here is I'm going to take this 110 minutes, and I want to convert it into hours, just so that all of the units are in hours here. And the way you do that, convert minutes into hours, is you just divide by 60. But if you have trouble remembering that, let me just show you quickly why that is. We know that for 1 hour, there are 60 minutes. So if I set it up this way and I do 110 divided by 60 in my calculator, we see that the units are going to cancel out here, and our answer is going to be in hours, which is really what we want. So I get 1.83 and a bunch of 3's that keep repeating. I'm just going to round it and leave it as 1.83 hours. So what do I know so far? I know that this 110 minutes is equal to 1.83 hours. So the total time that we had a super awesome, really fun party was 1.83 hours. And
now I can go back up here and see that the total time that I was away from my house was 3 hours. So if I do 3 minus 1.83, that's going to tell me the total amount of time that I was in the car driving. And so I do that, and if I use a calculator here, I get 1.17 hours. Now keep in mind here that, depending on how you round this, you might get a little bit different number, but you should get something very close to this number right here. And so this is the total time that I was in the car, both on my drive to Michelle's house for our super awesome party and on the drive back from Michelle's house back to my house. So if I use the distance formula, distance equals the rate, which is 45, times our time, which is 1.17. I see that this is equal to 52.65 in my calculator. And then I have to divide this by 2 though, because this is just the distance. This is the distance that I was in the car total. The drive from my house to Michelle's house and then from Michelle's house back. That's the total distance. I just want half of that. I just want the distance of the drive from my house to Michelle's house. So all I have to do is divide this by 2. And so this is the part where, depending on how you round it, you might get a little bit different of an answer here. So you should get something like 26.25. Depending on how you rounded, you might also get 26.33, something really close to either 26.25, 26.33. Depending on how you rounded, if you got something close to that, then you got the question right. And if you didn't get this question right, don't worry about it. Give yourself a pat on the back for trying. This is a tough question, and you stick with it. You're going to get there one day.
We actually do not live close by each other. I just thought it would be fun to create a question that included both of us. Okay, so this one's actually kind of fun because it's an inequality. So instead of having an equal sign, we have at this point right here, this little greater sign. So let's do this, but I want to show you because there's a little something tricky that we do in this problem. So we're going to start off just how we normally would to get the x alone. So let's subtract 7 from both sides. And I get here negative 8x is greater than negative 48 because I have negative 41 minus 7. Adding 2 negatives together keeps it a negative. Okay, now I'm going to divide by negative 8 on both sides. And the 8's cancel out and I'm left with x. And here's the thing, because I just divided, my sign is going to flip. Okay? And when you divide a negative by a negative, it turns into a positive. So x is less than 6. So be careful if you have inequalities. Definitely something that you're going to want to practice a bit because I could see this on the test for sure. So we've got a couple of angles here in the next few problems. So I want you to notice that these 2 lines right here, this line and this line, they're parallel. So that means that this right here, our angles are going to be the same, okay? So you can see that we have a total of 8 angles, but they're actually going to not be, it's not as tricky as it looks, okay? So notice here we have a little acute angle, and across from it, it's exactly the same acute angle. And then same with down here, acute angle and acute angle. So all of those angles are the same. So our 35 degrees is the same value as x plus 143. So to solve for x, I'm just going to go 135 equals x plus 143. And now I just need to solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 143 from both sides. And I am going to get negative 8 equals x. Now, an angle itself can't be negative. But it's not. It's 135 degrees, right? But in this case, the x is negative, which is fine as long as the angle itself is not negative. All right, so here, notice we have the 100 degrees and 13x minus 4. This is going to be the same sort of thing. So if you look, these ones are the same, and these ones are the same. So this 100 is going to equal 13x minus 4, okay? You might encounter other problems like this where it is looking at a different side, and then you have to determine whether it's a supplementary, complementary angle, that sort of thing. But here, they're going to equal, which is great. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides, plus 4. I get 104 equals 13x, divide by 13, and x is equal to 8. Write an expression to represent the perimeter of this triangle. So as a reminder, a perimeter is really just the fence, okay? So we're basically going to just add all these numbers together. So I have 2a minus 3 plus 2a plus 3a plus 1. And now I'll just combine like terms and then I'll be done. So I have 2a plus 3a is equal to 7a. And then I have negative 3 plus 1 is going to be negative 2. So that, my friends, represents the perimeter of this triangle. So we've been at this for a little while. Make sure that you're drinking some water. You want to make sure that you're really well hydrated. Being hydrated is so important because you want to make sure that your brain is at its full capacity. And if you're not hydrated, if you're even 2% dehydrated, you will not do as well on your test. So make sure that while you're studying, while you're taking the test, you're drinking a lot of water. The cost of a banquet is $95 plus $15 for each person attending. Write an equation that gives the total cost as a function of the number of people attending. What is the cost for 77 people? Okay, so really we have $95, right? We have to pay that no matter what, plus $15 per person. So I'm going to put a little P there for person. And that's our equation, okay? That's going to tell us how much we owe. Now, it says, what is the cost for 77 people? So I'm going to take 95 plus 15 times 77, and I simply get 95 plus 15 times 77 is 1,155. Add those numbers together, and I get $1,250. That's how much it costs for the 77 people. Of course, if you have more people, the cost will be higher. If you have fewer people, the cost will be lower. What is the volume of a figure that is 5 inches wide, 8 inches tall, and 4 inches long? So to find a figure, we're really just talking about rectangular prism. So we're going to go 5 times 8 times 4, multiply those together. I always like, when I multiply something like this in my head, I like to make it as easy as possible. So I'm going to go 5 times 4, which is 20. And I know how to go 8 times 2, right? And then add a 0. So 8 times 2 is 16, and add that 0. And that's the way that I do it in my head very quickly. Granted, you could do it any number of ways, but that's what goes through my mind. Okay, so 160 inches cubed, because we're talking about volume. Annie is planning a business meeting for her company. She has a budget of $1,325 for renting a meeting room at a local hotel and providing lunch. She expects 26 people to attend the meeting. The cost of renting the meeting room is $270. Which inequality shows how to find the amount, X, Annie can spend on lunch for each person? Okay, so really to do this, the process of elimination is how I like to solve a problem like this. So let's look at the greater than or equal than signs. So Annie does she need to spend more than $1,325 or less than or equal to $1,325? Well, she needs to spend less than, right? So we can actually delete these ones that are greater than, because we don't want her to spend more than her budget. Okay, now we're looking here. Is it the 26x or the 270x? Let's think about it. It says here that we're looking at how many people she's serving lunch to, right? So x represents the amount of lunch, right? So we're not going to put that with the fixed cost of the renting of the room, right? So our answer here is B, because that x needs to go next to the number of people in attendance. Melanie earns $285 per week plus 8% commission rate on all her sales. If she sells $4,213 worth of merchandise in 1 week, how much will her total earnings be for the week be? Okay, so we have her fixed, rate of $285 plus, so it says 8% on the commission of sales. And the amount she sold was $4,213. So we're going to multiply that by 0.08 because that's percent, right? And so 4,213 times 0.08 is 337.4 cents. And we're going to add that to the 285. And our answer ends up being $622.04. So way to go, Melanie, on doing such a great job on your sales. My friends, we are halfway through and you are rocking it. Way to be here. Give this video a thumbs up if you're still here, because that shows me that you are committed and that you're really sticking it through. So I hope that you've already downloaded the slides and that you're actually doing this with me, because you'll be getting more out of the video if you are. Draven created 215 pairs of earrings. The cost of goods sold was 25 cents per pair of earrings. Draven sells her entire inventory on Etsy for $3,272.30. After factoring the cost of goods sold, what revenue did Draven make on 1 pair of earrings? Okay, so this is a multi-step problem. So we have our $3,272.30. And we have here that we need to figure out what the cost was, right? So we're going to say 215 times 25 cents, right? Plus how much she made. So we're going to say her profit is going to be, we're just going to call it X, okay? X is the profit. Okay, so 215 times 0.25 is 53.75. So that's how much the earrings cost her to make. So we're going to just finish writing the equation out. Okay, so let's subtract this from both sides, the 53. Now I'm just going to solve for X, divide both sides by 215. So the profit she is making per earring, or per set of earrings rather, is $14.95. Sounds like an excellent profit for earrings that cost 25 cents to make. Draven, I don't know what you're doing to make such a good profit, but way to go. A rectangular prism has a width of 3 centimeters, a height of 5 centimeters, and a depth of 7 meters. What is the volume of the prism? So if it helps, you can always draw a picture. So here's our prism. So the width is 3, the height is 5, and the depth is 7. But really what we're going to do is just multiply all of these numbers together, and we get 105 centimeters cubed. General admission to the amusement park is $70 per person. Refreshments are an additional $22 per person, and parking is $15 per vehicle. How many family members visited the amusement park if the total cost was $291? So again, we're just creating a lot of equations with these word problems. So we're going to say 291 equals $70 per person plus the $22 for the refreshments per person plus the $15 per vehicle. We're just going to assume that the whole family came together. So let's subtract 15 from both sides, and we get 276 equals 70p plus 22p. Add those two numbers together and we get 92p equals 276. Divide by 92. And we get the number of people is 3. Find the circumference of a circle. So the first thing we have to do is we have to start with what the equation is for circumference. So it is 2 pi r. And this equation is actually on your formula sheet. Now, r is going to be the radius. And you can see here the only number that we have is 22. So the 22 goes all the way across. So the diameter equals 22, but the radius is actually half the diameter, which is 11. So now let's plug in that 11 into our equation. So we have here c equals 2 times pi. Pi is 3.14159. It goes on and on and on forever and ever, but we're just going to leave it at 3.14 and then times by our radius, which is 11. So if we multiply all of those numbers together, we get the circumference is 103.62. Problem 30, find the area of the circle. So you'll notice here it's still that 22. And so the formula for area is simply going to be pi r squared. And we already determined that because the diameter is 22, the radius is going to be 11, right? So let's just plug it in. A equals 3.14 times 11 squared. Now, a lot of people would just multiply straight across and get this wrong. You need to make sure that you're following the order of operations, the PEMDAS, so parentheses, no parentheses here, exponents, yes, the 11 squared. So that's the first thing that we need to do. So we have 3.14 times 11 squared, which is 121. Now multiply them together and we get an area of 379.94. Find the surface area of the figure. So a surface area is just like, imagine you have a box and you undo the box and you unfold it. Okay, that's what surface area is. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to just figure out the area for all the parts. So I'm going to go, this little part right here is 2 times 5. But there's the back side as well, right? So there's this back side right here as well. So I'm going to say 2, which is going to be the number of the sides that there are. Okay, now we've got this side right here is 7 times 5. And there's the side, and then there's the other side, so there are 2 of those. And then I have the top, which is going to be 2 times 7. But there's also going to be the bottom, which is down here, right? So there are 2 of those. So now I just multiply and then add them all together. So 2 times 2 times 5 is just going to be 20. 2 times 7 times 5 is 70. And 2 times 2 times 7 is 28. And now I just add all those numbers together and I get 118, we'll call that inches. It's just a small box. So here we have another surface area of a box. So let's do the number again, same thing. We're going to do the front side first. So we have 2 times 3, so there's the front side and the back side. So there's 2 of those, and we'll go 2 times 3. And let's go with the top. The top, you can see here's a 2, and here's another 2. So we have 2 times 2, and how many of them are there? There's the top and the bottom. So we've got 2. And then we've got our side right here, our one side and our other side. We have 2 of those. So we have 2 times, looks like it goes up to a 3. So let's figure out the do our multiplying and add them all together. And we've got here 12, 8, 12, add them together, and we get 32. So now I'm going to get a little trickier on you because we're doing a tent or a triangular prism. So the first thing, let's do that triangle in the front, okay? So how many are there? There's the front side of the tent and there's the back side of the tent, right? So there's 2. Then we go to find the area of a triangle. It's 1/2 base times the height. So we need to make sure that we put that 1/2 in right there. So the base is 6 right here, and the height is 5.2. Okay, and like we said, there are 2 of those. Now we have the side of the tent. So the side is really just a rectangle. So we have one side and the other side. So we have 2 sides, and it's going to be 3 times 6. And then we actually have the bottom of the tent, which we can't see, right? So here's the bottom. There's only one bottom. We don't have a top because it's a triangle, so there's just one bottom. So we're going to put a 1 right there, and it is 6, this 6 right here, and this 3 right here. So let's multiply these together, see what we get. I'm actually going to put them right over here, okay? So I have 31.2, 36, and 18, and I get 85.2, we'll say feet squared. And let's go camping, my friends. We're going to do it again, just another practice, different numbers. So we'll start with here the numbers. Let's do the one in the front of the tent. And there's a front and the back, so there are 2 of those, times, remember we have that 1/2, because the area of a triangle is 1/2. So 1/2 base, which is the 9, times the height is 7.8. And let's do the sides. So I have 2 sides, and I have 8 times 9, right? 8 times 9. And then I have my bottom down here, which I can't see, but it's going to be 9 times 8. There's only one bottom, so 9 times 8. So I get here 70.2, 144, and 72. Add all those up together, and I get 286.2. Rosie attends an adult education school. The street that she regularly takes is closed for construction, so she has to take the long way. How much farther will she drive? Okay, so here you can see, here's her home, and up here is her school. So this is 3 miles, 4 miles, and we don't know how fast she normally can go. So we're going to do the Pythagorean theorem, and that is simply a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the first thing we have to do is figure out how many miles is it usually for her to get to school. So I'm going to take a as our 3, so I have 3 squared, plus b, which is 4, so add the 4 squared, equals c squared, because I don't know what this c is. I could put an X or any letter, it's fine. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 4 times 4 is 16, equals c squared. And I get 25 equals c squared. Now I'm going to do the square root of 25, and that will get rid of that squared there, and I'm left with 5 equals c. And what do? I mark that as my answer, and I get it wrong, right? Because that's not what it's asking. It's saying, how much farther will she drive? So let's take a look here. She would normally drive, or I guess now she's driving 4 plus 3, which is 7. And she normally drives 5, so we're going to subtract the 5. And how much farther will she drive? 2 miles farther. Don't you hate construction when it's like in your normal path? Perry wants to replace the net on his basketball hoop. The hoop is 10 feet high. Perry places his ladder 4 feet from the base of the hoop. How long must the ladder be to reach the hoop? Okay, so we're actually going to just draw a triangle, right? So here's the hoop. This is the hoop. And the hoop, it says, is 10 feet high. And he places his ladder 4 feet, right? So this is actually his ladder. Let me kind of draw a little ladder. Seems like he's kind of has it a little far away. You might, Perry, you might get a little closer. But anyway, how long must the ladder be to reach the hoop? So we're just doing the same thing we did in the last one, where we're going a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a squared is 4 squared plus 10 squared equals c squared. So I've got here 4 times 4 is 16 plus 10 times 10 is 100 equals c squared. Okay, so 16 plus 100 is 116 equals c squared. Then we're going to do the square root of 116 equals c. Make sure you know how to do the square root on your calculator. And I get 10.77 feet is how long his ladder needs to be, unless he scooches it forward. A television is identified by the diagonal measurement of the screen, right? So here's our screen, and here's the diagonal. So a television has a 36-inch screen. So that's the 36, that's the diagonal. The height is 22 inches. And what is the length of the screen? So we're going to call that x. So again, we're doing the Pythagorean theorem, but we're going to do it just a little bit differently because the angle, so here we have, this is a right angle, and what it points out to is always going to be the C. Okay, so I'm going to say 22 squared plus x squared equals 36 squared. So it's just a little bit different, requires a little bit more math, but we've got it. Okay, so I have here 484 plus x squared equals 1296. Now I'm just going to do the algebra, subtract the 484 from both sides. And I get x squared equals 812. So take the square root of that 812. And I get x equals 28.5 inches right there. Isn't it interesting how they always do the diagonal? It makes you think your TV is so much bigger instead of, just doing the length or the height. Your TV would seem a lot smaller if they measured it by that. The perimeter of a rectangle is equal to 280 meters. The ratio of its length to its width is 5/2. Find the area of the rectangle. Okay, so friends, this one is a little bit more complicated, but you can do it, okay? Just bear with me and practice. Okay, so the perimeter is actually going to be the outside, the fence, okay? So let's review the equation for perimeter. So perimeter is simply equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, okay? And that equals 280. So we're going to use this ratio and find what each of these little parts is, okay? So we have 5 plus 2 equals 7. So we're going to take the 280 and we're going to divide that by 7, and that gives us 40. So now let's find, we have here the length and the width. So the length is simply going to be the 5 times 40, which is equal to 200. And the width is 2 times the 40 equals 80. And you add those up, and that equals 280, right? But that's for the length and the width of everything, right? So I guess we can put the little 2 right there. So we actually need to divide both of these by 2. And 200 divided by 2 is going to be 100, and then 80 divided by 2 is going to be 40. So now we've got this is the length, and this is the width. Now we need to remember the equation, the second equation for this is the area. So we have here area equals length times width. Okay, so we're going to go area equals 100 times 40, and then our area is equal to 4,000 meters squared. So this one definitely takes just a second to process everything, but make up another one if you need to do a little practice.
The right answer. A jar is filled with pennies and nickels in the ratio of 5 to 3. There are 30 nickels in the jar. How many coins are there? So if you'd like to, now would be a good time to pause the video, try this question out for yourself, and then when you're ready, we'll go over how to do it. Okay, so now let's talk about this question. Hopefully you had a chance to try it if you wanted to do so. And we have to understand ratios to get this question right. Well, what is a ratio? A ratio compares two different numbers. Now, what the first step here that I want to do is I'm going to take the information that we're given and I'm going to rewrite it as a fraction. So we're told a jar has pennies and nickels in a ratio of 5 to 3. So I rewrite this information as a fraction. And now what we can do is we can take the fact that there are 30 nickels, and I'm going to take this 30 and I'm going to plug it into the equation for n. In other words, I'm going to replace this n with a 30. And then what I can do is I can solve the equation for p. Now you might be wondering, what does that mean, solve the equation for p? Well, what it means is that I want to get p by itself on one side of the equation. And if I can accomplish that, that's going to tell us how many pennies there are. So I have p over 30 equals 5 over 3. So what's my next step going to be? Well, because it's p divided by 30, I have to do the opposite of division. Now, the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 30. Now, why would I want to multiply by 30? Because if I do that, the 30s are going to cancel out, and that's going to leave us with p, which is what we want. However, whatever we do to one side, we also have to do it to the other. So I'm going to have to take this 5 over 3, and I'm going to multiply that by 30 as well. So if I do that, and you know what, I'm going to use my calculator for the sake of time here, we'll see that p equals 50. But we're not quite done yet. So if you made it here, really good work, but we have to take it one step further because we have to answer how many coins there are, not just pennies. So we already know that there are 30 nickels, and we now figured out that there are 50 pennies. So to find how many coins there are, I'm just going to add up the number of nickels and the number of pennies. So in other words, I do 30 plus 50, and I get 80. So the correct answer here is 80 coins.
Thank you, Parker, for answering that last question. On to number 40. At the start of the week, a bookshop had science and art books in the ratio of 2 to 5. By the end of each week, 20% of each type of books were sold, and 2,240 books of both types were unsold. How many books of each type were there at the start of the week? Okay, so we're going to go with science is 2 and art is 5, and we have here 20% were sold. I like to just take a minute, and when it's a more complicated problem where there are lots of numbers, I like to write it down to make sure I don't miss anything. And then I had 2,240 were unsold. So what I want to do is I want to figure out how many of the books were there at the start, and then I can determine how many of each book there was, okay? So here's an equation that I highly recommend that you memorize. It is % over 100 equals part over whole. And this is what we're going to use to figure it out, okay? So we're starting off with, we're trying to figure out how much, we know that 20% was sold, right? So 100% minus 20% is just going to be 80%, right? So that's how much they have left. So 80% over 100% equals 2240 over X, because we're trying to figure out how many there was at the beginning. So now I'm just going to cross multiply. I'm going to go 80 times X is 80X equals 100 times 2,240 is 2240. Add the two more zeros. Now let's solve for X. Divide both sides by 80. And I get 2,800 equals X. But that's not the answer. We need to figure out how many of both the science and the art. So we're going to take our 2,800 and I'm going to divide it by 2 plus 5 equals 7, kind of the same ratio we just recently had. So 2,800 divided by 7 is going to be 400. I have my science equals 2, right? Because I have this 2 right over here. So 2 times 400 equals 800. And then I have my art equals 5 times 400 equals 2,000. So here's my answer right here. Science, 800 books at the start, and art, 2,000 books at the start. Crackers contain 12 calories each, and cookies contain 52 calories each. If you eat 5 crackers and 2 cookies, how many calories have you consumed in all? All right, so we've got our crackers. We have 12 crackers, 12 calories per cracker. We eat 5 crackers plus 52 calories for the cookies, and we eat 2 of those. So we have here 60 calories in crackers, 104 in cookies. So in total, we are consuming 164 calories. You bought 8 DVDs for $22 each and 4 DVDs for $13 each. What is the average price you paid for each movie? I don't know. I don't even buy movies anymore. You know, with all the streaming services, do you buy movies? Comment below and tell me if you ever buy movies. Okay, all right. So we have here 8 times 22 plus 4 times 13, right? And we're trying to find the average, but we need to figure out how much total we've spent first. So 8 times 22 is 176 plus 4 times 13 is 52. If we add those together, we get 228. And now we need to go, we have 8 plus 4 is 12, right? So we're going to go 228, divide that by 12, and we get $19 for our answer, $19 per DVD. You want to start a necklace making business. You spend 68 cents on string for each necklace and 25 cents on beads for each necklace. You sell necklaces for $2 each. If you sell 30 necklaces, how much profit will you make? Seems like this person needs to go back and look at Draven's model with her earrings, because I think she's making a lot more money. Okay, so let's see here. So first thing we have to do is we have to add 68 cents for the string plus the 25 cents for the beads, and the total cost is 93 cents. So $2 minus 93 cents is $1.07. But it doesn't want to know how much per necklace. It wants to know how much profit total. So we're going to times that by 30, and we get $32.10. Again, it seems like a lot of work for not much, but if you're just starting out, what can I say? Brighton is 15 kilometers due east of Kingsburg and 13 miles due west of Hamilton. How many meters apart are Kingsburg and Hamilton? All right, so I'm going to start with Brighton in the middle, and going east we have Kingsburg, and that is 15 miles. And then it says going west is Hamilton, which is 13 kilometers. Add those two together and I get 28 kilometers, and I mark that as my answer and I get it wrong. Why? Because it wants to know how many meters. And I love meters because all you have to do is times kilometers by 1,000. So let's times this by 1,000 and we get 28,000 meters apart. You draw a rectangular picture that is 8 inches wide. So let's go 8 inches wide and is 3 times long as it is wide. Ooh, so this is going to be quite a bit longer. We're going to go all the way up through that, okay? So 3 times how wide it is. What is the area of the picture? Okay, so let's start off by going 3 times 8, which is 24. And we know to find the area, it is simply length times width. So we have here the area is 8 times 24, and we get 192 inches squared. That's a squared. In science class, the students need to measure a plant's growth over time. The first week, the plant was 3.04 centimeters tall. It tripled in size the second week and grew another 1.9 centimeters the third week. How tall is the plant after 3 weeks? Okay, drawing a picture is going to make it so much easier for me, so that's what I'm going to do. All right, so it's starting off at 3.04 centimeters. So here's our little plant. And then the second week, it tripled in size, so whoop, here it is, way up here. So I'm going to go 3 times 3.04, and I get 9.12. And then it said we're going to add 1.9 centimeters for the third week. So it's going to be way up in here. And my answer ends up being 11.02 centimeters. Layla bought a dress for $22.80 during a 30% off sale. How much does the dress cost when it is not on sale? Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing I did before, which is part over whole equals percent over 100. Now, here's a little trick. Instead of doing 30%, I'm going to do 70% because I know how much she paid, right? So she paid $22.80, and that represented 70%, right? Represented 70%, not the 30%. So my whole is going to be X, and then right here I have 100. So I'm going to cross multiply, so 22.80 times 100 is 2,280 equals 70x. Divide both sides by 70. And I get 3257 equals x. That's how much her dress was when it was not on sale. You have a rectangular shaped pennant hanging on your wall. The base of the pennant is 18 inches. The height is 1 foot. How much wall space does your pennant take up? Okay, so let's draw the little pennant on the wall. It says we have 18 inches and the height is 1 foot. Okay, so I know that area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. But notice here how we are talking about inches and feet. So instead of doing inches or feet, I'm just going to do inches, okay? So I know that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. And now I can more easily do the problem. So I have here area equals 1/2 times 18, because that's the base, times the height, which is 12. So I just multiply all of those across, and my area is 108 inches squared. Now, if this problem was a little bit more specific in saying if it wants feet or inches, we might have to do it the other way. 18 inches is 1.5 feet. So we could have done it like that, but this works just fine because it didn't specify. If Shelly drinks 10 cups of water a day, how many quarts will she drink in a week? Okay, so she has 10 cups and we want to know how many quarts, right? So I know that there are 4 cups equals 1 quart, okay? So that means that 10 cups is equal to 2.5 quarts, right? So she's drinking 2.5 quarts a day. But it doesn't want to know a day, it wants to know a week. So we're going to times that by 7. And she is drinking 17.5 quarts of water a week. That girl is well hydrated. Billy ran 2/3 mile. Nancy ran 3/4 mile, and Heather ran 5/8 mile. How far did they run all together? Now, friends, if you don't already know how to do fractions on the calculator, make sure that you learn how. But I'm going to show you here today this written out, not using the calculator. Okay, so Billy ran 2/3 mile plus 3/4 for Nancy plus 5/8 for Heather. So what we have to do is we have to make sure the bottom number or the denominator is the same. So what is the least common multiple that all of them go into? So if so 4 goes into 8, so I don't have to worry about the 4. But 3 doesn't go into 8, so 3 and 8, if I multiply them together, I get 24, okay? So I'm going to do the base number, the denominator, as 24, because that is the greatest common or the least common multiple of the 3 numbers. So to get 3 to 24, I just simply multiplied it by 8. So 3 times 8 is 24, and 2 times 8 is 16. And to get 4 to 24, I'm going to multiply that by 6. So 4 times 6 is 24. 3 times 6 is 18. And this last one here, 8 goes into 24 3 times, so I'm going to multiply that by 3. 3 times 8, 24. 5 times 3 is 15. And now I just add 16 plus 18 plus 15 together, and I get 49 over 24. Okay, but I want to know what that actually means in miles. Okay, so I need to simplify this. And the best way to simplify is I'm going to go 24 goes into 49. So 24 goes into 49 2 times, which is 48. Bring down a 1, and 24 doesn't go into to 1. So I will take my 24, bring it down here on the bottom, 1 left over, and the 2 is my whole number. So they together went 2 miles and 1/24 of a mile. We did it, friends! Great job for sticking with the 50 math problems. You rock. You know, if you've watched any of these long videos before, comment below because you need to be cheered on because you watched the entire video, and I am so proud of you. Be proud of yourself, but do not be afraid to go over this video a few times so that you can really understand some of the concepts and my other ones. If no one has told you today, you are so important in this world. I believe in you. Make sure that you believe in yourself too, and go be purely persistent. Peace, friends.